Hey, Milky here, back again with another one. Yesterday we had an update news, which is the next upcoming update, which is undoubtedly the biggest and best update that's ever come to Marvel Snap. It's got something for new players, it's got something for the old beta players and early access players. It's huge and it's going to benefit so many people in this game. It's making systems better, giving out free cards, new ways to acquire cards. It's going to be amazing. With that update, 16 brand new cards coming to the game and the release of Series 4 and Series 5. So 2 new pools of cards, 4 and 5, coming to the game, which has got all of those cards within them. Series 4 is going to be rare cards, which is going to have 10 new cards coming in. And Series 5 is going to be ultra rare cards with 6 new cards coming into that mix. We're going to go ahead and jump in and look at these 16 brand new cards coming to the game. We're going to review them. We're going to talk about which decks that they go into, some potential of the cards, and then we're going to give them a ranking and see where they sit. For me, it's early stages, and lots of this is kind of theory crafting and just theorizing around the decks at the moment. So it remains to be seen in practice how strong they are. But I think we can get a good idea of potentially some of the stronger cards and cards you might want to target with your collector's tokens in terms of buying as they come out into the game. All right, so jumping into the first card here, we have the first Series 4 card. Now, Series 4 are the rare cards coming to the game, and there are 10 Series 4 cards. Series 5 are the ultra rare cards, so we'll get to those a bit later, but there are 6 cards coming in that mix. The first Series 4 card is She-Hulk. This is probably one of my most look forward to cards coming out of Series 4. She's a 6-cost, 10-power card, which has an ability that says costs 1 less for each unspent energy last turn. So really interesting. She's kind of the inverse of Sunspot, which I think could also be a great card that she could work with. Plays like Infernaut. I think she's going to be a really, really solid card. I can see potentially plays with Magic being played on turn 5, skipping turn 6, and then you play Infernaut and She-Hulk on turn 7. Could be some insane plays, big push of power late on in the game. I think she's going to do really well. I think she's an interesting card. I'm going to go ahead and give her 4 out of 5 stars. Next up, we have Titania. Titania, 1-cost, 5-power card, so fantastic stats for a 1-cost card. But she has a really interesting ability that says when any card is played at this location, this card switches sides. So as you can imagine, board space is going to be really important, but every time a card's played, this card will just continue to swap sides. So it'll be interesting play arounds potentially with Goblin filling up board space on the opponent's side. She has a massive power, but I think she is an interesting card for sure. I'm not exactly sure how she's going to do. So for the moment, I'm going to give her a 2.5 out of 5, 2.5 stars. But I think she can be really interesting. It remains to be seen how well she does. She has a very unique ability, which makes her difficult to judge. But I'm happy with 2.5 stars for the moment, and we'll see where she lands. Next up, we have Luke Cage. Luke Cage is coming to the game, 2-cost, 1-power card with an ongoing ability that reads, your cards can't have their power reduced. So Luke Cage kind of protecting all of your cards from power reduction. I think he's going to be pretty strong. And I tell you why, because locations can reduce power and also your opponent's cards. So if this applies to cards that are in your hand and in your deck potentially, it's a great counter to Scorpion. If it only accounts to cards that are on the board, decks like Hazmat can do really well. As you said, there's lots of locations like Necrotia and lots of other locations which negatively affect the power of your cards. I think he's going to do pretty well. I think he can be solid in control decks and decks where you're looking to kind of counter your opponent potentially. I'm going to go ahead and give him 3.5 stars out of 5. I think he's got some good utility, and we'll see where he lands when he comes into the game. All right, next up, we have Absorbing Man. Absorbing Man is a 4-cost, 3-power card with a very cool on-reveal ability that says if the last card you played has an on-reveal ability, this card copies it. I think there's going to be lots of different interactions with this card. Lots of ways to potentially fill up your board with spreading cards. You could potentially have some interesting plays with Mystique. So like maybe Mystique copies Wong and then Absorbing Man copies Mystique. I think there's going to be lots of interesting things you can do with this card. On Reveal is one of my favorite archetypes. I think there's really strong on reveal cards. I could see Absorbing Man potentially being played late on in the game after you get some of your high cost, like really strong on reveal abilities out if you can ramp into them early. I think he's going to be an interesting card. I'm going to go with 4 out of 5 stars for Absorbing Man. Maria Hill, the first of the shield cards coming to the game. 2 cost, 3 power. On reveal, add a random 1 cost card to your hand. She's kind of just an interesting 2-drop version of Agent 13. I'm not too sure how well she'll do. I'm going to give her a 2 out of 5 stars. She kind of just is a worse version of Agent 13 for the most part at the moment. Remains to be seen. Maybe Shield becomes an incredibly strong deck, but I think at the moment, I'm happy with her at 2 stars. Agent Coulson, the second Shield card coming into the game in this new update. 3 cost, 4 power, with an on-reveal ability that reads, add a random 4 and 5 cost card to your hand. So I actually kind of like this card. It helps you curve out very well on those turns, albeit with random cards, but potentially they could be quite game-changing. I think Agent Coulson is definitely stronger than Maria Hill. I think the way he can generate cards can work well with Collector, especially generating 2 cards. There's a good buff there. I really like the way you kind of could potentially build a deck around him. There's going to be some RNG in this deck, as there is already with shield cards in the game, but I think it's definitely interesting and worth a go. So I'm going to give him 3 stars out of 5, and we'll just see how good shield decks are when they come out. Continuing on with the shield theme, we have the Helicarrier, coming in at a 6 cost, 10 power card, with an ability that reads, when you discard this from your hand, replace it with 3 random cards. Now, I think this is where potentially the shield decks break away from hand-sized decks, or break away from like potentially your Devil Dino style decks. Because I think the Collector can still definitely work with this style of deck, with the shield deck, but maybe not so much the hand size, because you're potentially looking at running some discard cards in the deck. And with all of the random card generation that you have, potentially with Helicarrier, Agent Coulson, if you want to throw Nick Fury in the mix there, with all of this random card generation coming from shield cards, you're probably going to want to be discarding potentially just to make space in your hand and make sure that you're getting the most out of these cards. So I think this is potentially an interesting card. The whole deck built around shield cards could be something that's really strong. Remains to be seen, especially with building in some discard cards as well. That could be very cool. Go ahead and give the Helicarrier 2.5 out of 5. I just don't know if the deck is going to do super well. I think the RNG around the deck is definitely fun. Remains to be seen exactly how well it will do. Next up, we have M'Baku, another Wakandan coming into the game. 1 cost, 2 power, with an ability that reads, if this is in your deck at the end of the game, it leaps to a random location. So, very unique ability that could have some RNG and surprise factor to it. Could also work with some other Wakandan cards like Okoye. If you're buffing him up, he's in your deck, he jumps out at a 3 cost. Some interesting things that could happen there. I just don't know if he's going to be great. He's got some, very standard kind of power on him for a 1-drop. And you've got to remember that you usually often only have 3 cards in your deck at the end of the game. So it's not often that this ability is going to go off. Could be interesting, could have some highlights, but I'm not sure. I'm going to go with a 2 out of 5 for M'Baku. Next up, we have Atuma. Atuma is a 4 cost, 10 power card, and I absolutely love this stat line. But he has an ability that reads, if you have another card here at the end of the turn, destroy this. So you probably just definitely have to have some play around. The really cool thing about Atuma when comparing him with other cards like with similar stat lines is that he has this straight off the bat. So for example, Namor, you have to have his ongoing ability there, and it happens kind of continually. This is just a thing that happens point in time every turn. He's going to have 10 power straight off the bat, otherwise he's destroyed. So you could potentially, use Venom to consume all that power. You can potentially copy it with Taskmaster. I think he's got some really cool versatility that you could do with Atuma. I like him at a 4 cost. I think he's definitely going to be playable and interesting in the decks that he lands in for sure. I'm going to go ahead and call him a 3.5 out of 5. I think he's definitely on the stronger side of the Series 4 cards and probably going to be playable. I'm really interested to see Atuma. Next up, we have Orca coming in at a 6 cost, 9 power card with an ongoing ability which will plus 5 power if this is your only card here. So kind of like Namor on steroids for the most part. I really like Orca. I think he has some potential in Omega Red style decks with Iron Man, like kind of a really good curve of Omega Red, Iron Man into Orca. I think he has some potential. I think he can do well. I think his playline is quite linear, and the decks that he fit in will probably be quite limited. But I'm interested to try him out, see how he goes. I'm going to go ahead and call Orca a 3 out of 5. and we'll see how he lands when he comes out. So now we enter Series 5 or Pool 5, whatever you want to call it. But this is where some of the heavy hitters, some huge cards come into the game, and we're going to kick things off here right with Galactus. Galactus comes in at a 6 cost, 3 power with an on reveal effect, if you haven't already seen it, where if this is your only card at this location or here, destroy all other locations. So for me, I actually have a couple of Galactus wins already on the channel. They're in my shorts section, so check them out if you want to see probably the best animation in the game, as well as just some crazy interactions and games as well. But Galactus is a completely unique card. He destroys locations and all of the cards that are on those locations for the most part. I'm really excited to see where Galactus lands. I think he is an awesome card. I think it perfectly suits him, this ability. I look forward to using him more and more and not just getting him from random RNG in the game. But yeah, I think he's going to be an awesome card. Being able to build a deck around him and having him consistently in the game is going to be super nice too. So Galactus for me is one I'm absolutely looking forward to. I'm going to go ahead with a 4 out of 5 for Galactus. I'm really interested to see how strong he gets when you build decks around him. Next up in Series 5, we have Valkyrie. Valkyrie is a 5 cost, 3 power card. So kind of similar stats to Magic there. She has an on reveal ability that says set all cards at this location at 3 power. Super interesting card. Counter card for your opponent who might have large cost, large power, cards there at that location. But it also can buff yours. She's going to be really interesting for sure. I think there's lots of things you could do potentially with Cerebro as well. A pretty versatile card in terms of being counter to your opponent, buff yours, potentially have some other synergy with other cards. I think there's a lot you can do with Valkyrie. I'm going to go ahead and give her a 4.5 out of 5. I think she's going to be really, really strong. Next up, we have Super Skrull, and Super Skrull is a 4 cost, 2 power minion, so not the greatest stats. He has an ongoing ability which says has the ongoing effects of all enemy cards. So we can go ahead and probably assume that it means all enemy cards in play. I think Super Skrull could be absolutely insane. However, there's a lot of caveats. Your opponent has to be playing ongoing cards, so that's one thing. And those ongoing effects have to be beneficial or things that you can actually use in your own deck that you can build. So I think he's going to be interesting. I think he might be a bit of a niche pick, but I think he could be absolutely crazy in some games when he does work out. I'm going to go ahead and call him a 3 out of 5 star. Next up, we have another Wakandan coming into the game, which is Shuri. Shuri is a 4 cost, 2 power card with an on reveal ability that says double the power of the next card you play. So immediately, she has amazing synergy with Black Panther straight off the bat. But I also think she just is a great card to just buff up cards in general. I think she's going to have a lot of utility at turn 4, just to buff up high power cards, like take them to the next level. I think she can serve as a really, really cool card that can apply to a lot of different decks. I don't think she's just going to sit in that Wakandan deck. I'm really keen to try it, Shuri. I think she's a strong card. She's got a basic ability, but sometimes basic abilities are very, very strong. And I think that her versatility across a number of different decks can come to the forefront. And I think she can do really well in a lot of circumstances. So really keen to play around with Shuri. I'm going to give her a 4.5 stars out of 5. We then have Bast, and Bast comes in at a 1 cost, 1 power card. So very average stats off the bat, but she has an on-reveal ability which says set the power of all cards in your hand to 3. So this could definitely be interesting. Have some very interesting interplay with the Zeus-style decks. Have some surprising power. You can also change the cost of negative cards. So, for example, like Mr. Negative, you could potentially change, or even things like the Hood. Definitely an interesting card. I'm keen to see where Bast lands and what kind of deck she's going to be played in. I have a feeling that she's going to be quite good. I'm going to go ahead and call her a 4 star out of 5. I see some versatility there in the types of decks you can play her in. You can also enable more cards to be played in Cerebro 3, which is also an interesting one for sure. I think she's going to have some pretty interesting playlines and some decks she can be included in. So definitely keen to see Bast for sure. The last card that we have on the list is Thanos. And Thanos is a huge one coming to the game. I know lots of people have been interested in playing him. You can get Thanos from random card generation at the moment, but you can't make use of his ability because it happens at the start of the game, and he needs to be in your deck at that point. So no one's really played around with Thanos to his full extent at the moment, but Thanos is a 6-cost, 8-power card, which has an ability that reads, at the start of the game, shuffle the 6 Infinity Stones into your deck. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Infinity Stones. He does have decent base power off the board, which is something to note. The first Infinity Stone, Mind Stone, has an on-reveal ability which draw 2 stones from your deck. Very interesting. This is a great card that you can get early on or just at any point in the game. We also have the Power Stone, which is a 1-cost 3-power card, which is ongoing. If you've played all 6 stones, Thanos has 10 power. So this is going to benefit once all of the Infinity Stones are played out on the board. Next up, we have the Reality Stone, 1-cost 1-power. Transform this location into a new one and draw a card. So a little bit of Scarlet Witch flavor in this card, as well as drawing a card. So these lots of the Infinity Stones are giving you some solid card draw with your deck, which you do need. For sure. The Soul Stone is a 1-cost 1-power card as well, with an on-reveal draw a card. Ongoing ability, enemy cards here have -1 power. So ability to negatively affect the board and also draw cards. Super solid. Super solid in this deck. Next up, we have the Space Stone, and the Space Stone is a 1-cost 1-power card as well, which is on reveal ability reads, next turn you can move 1 card at this location, draw a card. So the ability to kind of potentially move and shuffle your deck and then draw a card again, fantastic. I think that's going to have some interesting play as well. Then we have the Time Stone. Time Stone, again, a 1-cost 1-power card with the on reveal ability, which is gain 1+ energy next turn and draw a card. So as you can see, 5 of the Infinity Stones actually allow you to draw cards, with the Mind Stone allowing you to draw 2 of the stones from your deck. So I guess the big thing with Thanos is you're shuffling 6 new cards into your decks. However, the thing with Thanos is that he's one of the only cards in the game which allows you to draw cards from your own deck. So I think building a deck around Thanos could be really interesting. So you are making your deck bigger by adding cards, so you're actually making your card draw less consistent. But then all of the card draw mechanisms you're getting from the Infinity Stones can allow you to kind of shuffle through your deck and get through all of those cards quite quickly. I think Thanos is going to be an interesting one. He's going to have so much flexibility in how you build around him, in how you in the cards you include in the deck as well. I think he has a potential to be a really solid power push on the board when fully activated with the Infinity Stones, but also the other parts of the deck and all the card draw can be super interesting as well. To say I'm excited for Thanos would be a huge understatement. I'm going to go ahead and give Thanos a 4.5 out of 5. It's early stages, I know, but I just have a feeling he's going to be really strong, and the way that you can cycle through your deck, get lots of cards out, potentially draw lots of other things from your deck as well, I think he's going to be a strong power card for sure. Alright, so that's going to wrap us up for this one. Really hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments what cards you're looking forward to, which combos or cards you're looking into playing, and the decks you might include them in. I'd love to hear from you. Alright, that's it for this one. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, all that good stuff, and until the next one, I'll see you then.